To consume the delete API on the React application, we'll go to Visual Studio Code. Now over here, if you notice, we already have mentioned the button. This button is used to edit the record. Now over here, we'll be adding another button to delete the record. So with each record, two buttons will be rendered. One is to edit and one is to delete. I'll just give the button tag and label delete, and let the variant be danger, and in the class name for the headings that we have, I'll just adjust the width so that it is rendered perfectly on the screen. We'll save it and go to the browser. So this is how we are seeing the two buttons on the screen for each of the record. For each of the row, we have two buttons. One is to edit the record and one is to delete the record. So let's implement the delete functionality. Now, when I was clicking on edit button, I was opening this edit model. So let's create another model, and over here what we want to do is we want to remove create property listing component first of all, and in the body we can simply give a p tag with the message saying, are you sure you want to delete this record, or let's say listing. After this, let's add footer also for this model. And then we can have buttons here. I think the IntelliSense is not working right now. Now in this button, what we'll do is, let me give it the variant secondary and cancel. Delete. And let me give this danger. Also here, let's have the class as text light. The title will be delete listing. Now we need to change the properties over here. So let me create another state variables first. This is the existing state variables for edit model opening. Let's have another one for show delete model. And initially it will be set to false. Now I'll use the edit model opening function, or maybe we can just take both of them, and let's create other functions here for opening the delete model and closing the delete model. But when I'm opening the delete model, I want to set show delete model as true and remove all of this. After this, when I am I mistakenly did the editing in open edit model. Over here I want to set show delete model as true in this function and set show delete model as false when I am closing it. So this is the function that we'll be using. And Currently it is being passed the parameter ID. Now we'll go through this, but first let's use the state variable and simply use it over here as show, and on hide I want to call the function close delete model. I think this should be good. Let me simply call open delete model over here on the click of button. I am removing the parameter as of now. We would be adding it later on, but first let me show you how the model is getting opened. So on click, I want to call the function open delete model simply. So when I'm clicking on the delete button, this function is going to get called, and this function would set show delete model as true. So once it is set as true, this model is going to get opened because the property show here is set to true when show delete model is true. And when I am hiding the model, at that time close delete model is getting called. And in this function, we are simply setting the state variable as false. So that means the model should hide. I'll just save all the changes and we'll go to the browser. I'm clicking on delete for the 8th record. So you see over here, we are getting the message through this model pop-up that are you sure you want to delete this listing? We have cancel and delete button. Now what we are going to do is we have to implement the delete operation on the click of this button. If I click on cancel, the model pop-up should close and we would not be able to delete the record. Only when I click on delete, at that time the operation for delete should be executed. If I click on close over here, this pop-up is closing. So let's add the same functionality for closing on this cancel button as well. That means when I'm clicking on cancel, nothing else is going to happen. Only the pop-up should get closed. I'll just save it. We'll go to the browser and check if it is working. I click on delete from the record data and then I click on cancel. So the pop-up is closing. Simply nothing is happening. Now we'll implement the functionality for this delete button. Over here on this delete button, I need to call the function to delete the record. But how do I get the ID for which I want to delete the record for? So let me have another state variable created for it. Const ID to delete and set ID to delete. I'm using useState and just passing the initial value as 0. So that means it's going to be a numeric field. And this ID would be set. When do we need to set it? As soon as I am clicking on the delete button on this table, at that time the ID should be set, because this is when we have the data for the IDs in the table, and when I click here, at that time the ID should get captured. So what I'll do is through this delete button, I'll just close this and you should be able to see that this is the delete button over here. And through this delete button, this function is getting called. So what I'll do is simply pass the row ID from this delete button. And when we go to this function, we want to set the ID. So here we have set ID to delete and let it accept the ID first. This function is taking the ID now and I'm setting the ID over here. So as soon as I click on the delete button on the table, at that time this function is getting called and setting the state variable as this ID. So once I already have the ID captured, Then what I want to do is, when I click on this delete button, I want to call another function, delete record, simply without the brackets, and let's have the function defined. Now, through this state variable, I have the ID to delete. What I'll do is, I'll simply utilize the API call from here, and I'll just show you that we have ID to delete from here. This is going to be a delete operation, so the method is delete in request options. And now in the API URL, I would need to pass the ID as well, because this is how it is expected over here. So I'll just need to have the string over here, ID equal to, and then this ID we are taking dot to string. I think we should be good here, but let me take this API URL and have it as a const over here. Then I'll just show it to you on the console also, which particular ID we are trying to delete when I am clicking on the button, and utilize this API URL over here. After that, we are already doing a console log of the response. So let's just save it, and we'll go to the browser now and open the console over here. Now I'm clicking on the fourth record, delete button for the fourth record. And as soon as I click on cancel, nothing is happening. When I click on it again and I click on delete, and we're getting an error. Okay, let me just check the code over here in the request options. Yeah, we don't need to pass the body. See, we are already passing the ID parameter over here. This is not a post or put method that we need to pass the request body. We only need to pass the parameter. Also, I'm seeing that I have set this ID as this. I need to set it to ID to delete. Now it should be good. And we'll go to the browser again, clear the console, maybe refresh the page as well. And I'm clicking on the delete button for fourth record. I click on delete, and this is the URL that I just did a console log of. We are passing ID equal to 4 with this URL, and we are getting the response record deleted successfully. So over here, if we just re-verify that everything is working fine or not, this is the old data that we have the fourth record over here. But I do a select query and we are not able to see that fourth record. So that is deleted, and our delete operation is working perfectly. If I just refresh the page, we are not seeing the fourth record now. That means we have implemented the delete operation as well.